Mini episode 674 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You'll want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
All right, everybody, the last two categories left in the FDH Lounge Pantheon 9, Best Pro Wrestling Card of All Time and Best Musical Act of All Time. We are filling a purged category when we get to musical act. But first, Best Pro Wrestling Card of All Time. We had a lot of splinterizing on this category. I was very, very surprised that my vote only got my vote. Nobody else cast a vote along with this. If you're going, now again, the lounge as a whole is not a real hardcore wrestling community. You have those of us in there that are part of it, but it doesn't speak for the lounge as a whole. If you were looking at a hardcore wrestling fan base, or even longtime fans, even a lot of casual fans, it tends to be neck and neck between WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 17. What did you prefer? I prefer WrestleMania 17. It's the glory show of the Great Attitude Era. It's the kind of punctuation mark on it. A lot of people don't like it for the way that it ended, with Stone Cold siding with Mr. McMahon, and it was a goofy ending. It was kind of convoluted, but what a great card. What a super card, top to bottom. Great stuff. I loved it. No other votes for WrestleMania 17. We got some fun ones that people voted for, though. We got some real fun ones. Ben Chu voting for Hogan Flair 1, Bash at the Beach 94. You don't hear that get talked about a lot for best card. Scott Pullins voting for Andre the Giant and anyone. That was just what he submitted back to me. I don't know what that means. So
Andre the Giant fan.
Apparently, well, I know he's an Andre fan, but any show that he was on any time, is this all a giant tie for first place in his mind?
I guess so.
I guess. The other votes for people not at the table, we'll get to the votes for people who are at the table here in a moment. Nate Noy voting for WrestleMania 2 because of the Roddy Piper Mr. T boxing match. Truly, we all have our own points of personal preference, as that proves yet again. Jason Jones voting for the 2002 Survivor Series. I have no earthly idea why. They did have that Elimination Chamber match where Shawn Michaels came back and won the world title at Madison Square Garden. Maybe that was something he really liked. I don't know. Sam Jones voted for the 1998 Hell in a Cell, which I was there for, and that was pretty awesome. I think she means King of the Ring, because that was the time they did Hell in a Cell. But the one in Pittsburgh where Mick Foley went off the top of the cage, I was actually there, and that was pretty sweet. So that was a close second in my book. Tom Dank voting for the 1989 Royal Rumble. I can tell you, as somebody who's in the midst of a History of the Royal Rumble anthology with Kyle Ross right now, that is a singularly unremarkable show. So I have no idea why he voted for that one. But thanks for the vote, Tom. We're all entitled to our own opinion here. Steve Cervillo voting for the 1988 Survivor Series, notable only for being at the Richfield Coliseum. Beyond that, I don't think it's notable for very much. Chris Galloway, who regrettably had to take off before we got to this category, and we thank him for the time he was able to put in today on the previous ones. He did a protest vote for WrestleMania 7. Now, one of these things is, and I give him credit for looking deep into this enough to know that WrestleMania 7 is regarded as one of the most horrible shows of all time. It's the one that they did. They were doing the Gulf War exploitation angle. Sergeant Slaughter is siding with Saddam Hussein, and he's there to take on Hulk Hogan, and he's going to burn an American flag. Yeah, that's the one Chris voted for best of all time, to protest, since he's not a wrestling fan. So I said, if you're going to do a comedy vote, that's the way you do it. You find a really absurd one, and I said, very, very well played. Other votes here. Mike Petak voted for Barely Legal 97. That was the first ever ECW pay-per-view. An excellent one.
We're talking about wrestling here, right?
Yes. Mike,
Well,
there's your headline. Mike Petak likes them barely legal.
Can I change my vote to that?
Well, that's an interesting point of segue to what some might call WWECW, the
Yes.
revival in 2005, One Night Stand 05. An excellent nostalgia show, Tony. A lot of fun and a great vote on your part.
I do remember watching this, and there were two reasons why I remember it.
Mhm.
It was the Dudley Boys were part of it.
Okay.
Because recently I was just watching, and I'm like, wait, the Dudley Boys are still around? Are you kidding me? And then the second one, I believe the undercard with that was Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit,
Yes.
who are both dead.
Yes.
And actually, Eddie Guerrero, it might have been one of his last matches, too.
I think it was. Yeah. One of his last pay-per-view ones
Yeah.
anyways. Oh, Eddie was great.
So that's why I remember it. Just like, okay, it's the Dudley Boys and a bunch of dead people.
Well, also, too.
That's my pick.
Do you remember Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka? And in those matches, and you don't see this anymore because of CTE, but they would always do the gimmick. I mean, Mike Awesome just like braining him with the chair shots. Do you remember that match?
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
I mean, that was
That was
something.
the early days of when things were going viral on the internet. I remember those were the MySpace days, and I just remember following somebody, and I just saw that it was like the early days of GIFs, and just seeing this thing, someone bashed over the head with a chair over and over again.
And that was the thing. I mean, like, that was part of Masato Tanaka's gimmick because they were reprising the matches they did in ECW in, like, 99 and 2000. That was his gimmick.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's dumb enough to stand there and take these solid chair shots to the head. And, to see it reprised on a WWE stage, that was a surreal moment in time. Other surreal moments in time were, among other things, SummerSlam 96, which you, Anthony, were there for at the Q. So,
Mr. Chris
look,
Galloway.
I was at Survivor Series 04 at the Q, and I'll tell you it sucked. So I don't know that being there necessarily.
Mr. Chris Galloway, just before he left,
Yeah.
when I told him why I really voted for this, he looked
Okay.
at me and said, that's an awesome reason for voting it for the best. There was a match there, and for Kyle Ross, The Undertaker was in it.
Boiler Room Brawl.
There was a match, the Boiler Room Brawl, which was actually the headlining match, which was actually, it was an excellent match, watching it. But at one point, I elected to get up to go to the bathroom, walked into the hallway, looked over, not even 20 feet from me was the match.
Oh, okay.
And as I stopped to look, security kind of hurried me off as the cameras just pointed my way.
Okay.
So I could quite possibly be on the pay-per-view for that.
I may have to rewatch that just to see, because they do have it on the WWE Network along with all the other
It would
in-demand
be
stuff.
much skinnier version of myself.
That I don't know if you remember this part. This was during the pre-show. The match with Yokozuna and Stone Cold. Do you remember that? Yeah.
yes.
Basically, that just consisted of Yokozuna slipping and falling off
was done.
and Austin pinning him.
Almost like I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yeah.
So I'll take advantage of it because Stone Cold said
Pretty much. So there was that. You, Matt, going with the Piper Hogan cage match, Halloween Havoc 97. The funny thing is, again, when you get into like the wrestling fan community, like that is a show that is revered because of the aforementioned Eddie Guerrero, a legendary match with Rey Mysterio at that time on the pay-per-view. And pretty much the wrestling community as a whole shat over the main event match. But your choice is that show because of the main event match.
Correct. And there's something about the cage, too. It adds an extra flair to it. It just gives you something.
Ric Flair was not a part of that match.
Ric Flair was not in that
Yeah.
match, but woo! But any match with Piper in it, the way he fought with one hand, and I think that one he had to use both hands to take. I don't remember who won it, but
He was a great entertainer. That was one where I think Piper actually won it, but it was non-title, which is really goofy because they were doing the build 2 months later to Hogan Sting at Starrcade, biggest match of the millennium, whatever. And I think they beat Hogan on that show 2 months ahead of time. So, emblematic of their very goofy booking at the time. Those are all the ones that got only one vote as we're going through this here. 2 votes for WrestleMania 18, which I found to be very interesting. Russ Cohen and Ron Glasnap both voting for that one. That's not a show that's particularly renowned for very much. It is renowned for the moment. If you want to go to that, it's one of the most memorable moments of all time. That match with Hulk Hogan and The Rock where it just sort of turned the Sky Dome on its ear, and where a crowd that was supposed to be behind The Rock instead was 100% behind Hogan. And the show is not memorable for much beyond that. Great match with The Undertaker and Ric Flair, actually, that I love because I'm a big Arn Anderson guy. At one point during the match, Arn Anderson runs out, gives a spine buster to The Undertaker coming off the ropes, and runs back to the locker room. That's like, yeah, that's...
Run and hide.
Yeah. He got his ass out of there after he did it, but that was awesome. 2 votes for that, but there were 3 votes for, I said at the outset, it pretty much comes down to, if you're talking to hardcore wrestling fans, it's either WrestleMania 17, that match, again, in the main event, Hogan and, or I'm not Hogan, Austin and The Rock in the main event, but a great show top to bottom. The peak show of the Attitude Era, or what is regarded as the peak show of the 80s boom, WrestleMania 3. And there were 3 votes that came in for that one. Alex Slemp voted for that. Dave Adams and Kyle Ross. Kyle and I have debated this on the show a lot. We've gone back and forth because, again, Kyle's a guy where he has said, I would vote for WrestleMania 17, but that ending was so screwed, that's where I have to part company. But Kyle's also a guy who loathes the Hulk Hogan-Andre the Giant match, and that's the one that kind of defines WrestleMania 3. Now, I know to him it's Savage Steamboat, but that's not the way the rest of the world looks at it.
Was that the match that Hogan actually body slammed?
Slammed Andre the Giant, yeah. I mean, one of the most famous moments ever, defining moment. 93,000 fans in the Silverdome. I mean, the whole thing is iconic, but if you look at the undercard, I mean, standards have changed. And you look at the late 80s working standards of the WWF at the time versus what guys are doing today, and it looks like they're moving in molasses, a lot of them. Not to be disrespectful, but, you know, it just moves kind of slow compared to the more modern stuff, WrestleMania 17 included. But enough people disagreed with me and voted for it. WrestleMania 3, it's a worthy winner. We raised the Dundee Award Best Pro Wrestling Card of all time. We're down to our last category today. We are filling the purged one here, and I'm going to put this out there at the outset. We purged, deservedly so, Bon Jovi as the best musical act of all time. Yeah. But you guys will notice this. I have distributed to everybody here.
Rick Springfield didn't make the list?
Do you get it?
Even though I have interviewed him, I have not voted for him. I'll put it to you that way. I would not go that far. I would not prostitute myself just because I interviewed him. But I'll tell you this, for anybody looking at our results sheet that I've distributed here, you will notice that for the ballot space next to Nate Noy, there is Bon Jovi with a line through it. Nate insisted petulantly on casting a protest vote for Bon Jovi because he didn't think they should have been purged. So I said, Nate, you can cast the vote. It'll be disallowed. We'll laugh at you for that. But, you know, you do what you got to do. So putting it out there right now, that was Nate's decision. Regrettable though it may be, to cast a second vote for Bon Jovi. This one is disallowed. This was split a lot of different ways, and we'll get to most of the ones here at the table. We'll get to them subsequently. I'll just get mine out of the way right now. I voted for Rush. I mean, that's a homer pick. They're my favorite band. I think I have a lot to point to as far as the record that they have over the course of 40 years. They've done a lot. Whether you agree or not, I mean, it's not a Bon Jovi-esque vote, to be sure. Most of these votes were pretty solid. Ben Chu voting for Nirvana. Scott Pullins voting for the Rolling Stones. Alex Slemp voting for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Alex is a big homer for them. I've seen them in concert too, and I saw them, you know, before some of their shows of more recent years, which I think have been kind of dragged down by their more recent material. So I share Alex's enthusiasm, even though I didn't vote that way. Russ Cohen voting for Foo Fighters, which I would tend to agree is the better Dave Grohl band than Nirvana, but you know, that's how Russ saw it anyways, and I would agree. Mike Petak going with the classic vote of Rolling Stones. We have Tom Dank going for...
Mike Petak went with Zeppelin.
That's right. Mike Petak went
with Rolling Stones.
Yeah, Petak went with Zeppelin. Yeah, that's right. He went with Zeppelin, Scott Pullins, Rolling Stones. Tom Dank votes for Frank Sinatra. Steve Servillo votes for Elvis Presley. Bob Glassman casting one for the Eagles. I'm surprised it wouldn't be Poco. Isn't that his favorite? And from that era, I would.
Jeez, why not Andrew Gold? Why not? Thank you for being a friend.
Yeah. So Bob going for somebody else from that era, but he could probably justify it by the commonality. Isn't it commonality with Timothy B. Schmidt? I think he was in both, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, there's the nexus for Bob. Dave Adams, my good friend, voting for Huey Lewis and the News, band of our youth. And again, hey, I've seen him in concert. I've enjoyed him. Whatever. It is what it is. Chris Galloway, I'm sorry that he had to take off. I would have loved to hear him justify this in person, as he voted for Beethoven, taking this in a completely different direction than the rest of us.
I think he just took that as this is going to be a very, very tough category. You're not going to get a very, very good vote.
Yeah.
Because there's too many very good acts out there to bring it down to just one.
I know he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't
And
approve of these ones that are very split.
I do agree with him that that was his way of going. This category is too vague.
Yeah,
So-
I can understand that. And in terms of single votes here for folks at the table, Tony going the Fanilow route here with
Absolutely.
Barry Manilow.
Yeah, I gotta love Barry Manilow. I
Yeah.
saw him twice in concert, and I'm ready
I
to
just-
take
I just-
a chance.
I just love how
again.
his wonderful better half is just pushing him away from you.
Ready to put my
And
love
faking
on the
throwing up
line
as
with
Tony's
you,
singing.
and living with nothing to show for it. You get what you get when you go for it. And I'm ready to take a chance again. Ready to take it.
Speaking of take a chance, the reason that I can't bag on you for that is that I myself am a big ABBA fan. So, let he who was without sin cast the first stone.
I saw Manilow for the first time a couple of years ago, and I got free tickets, and I didn't realize how good the tickets were. And it was dead center, 8th row at Blossom Music Center.
Okay.
His nose hit me in the face, and I could see all his plastic surgery and everything. And it was such a great show. I was the youngest willing person to go there, that actually wanted to go there. And
Not dragged there by
wasn't
somebody.
dragged there
Okay.
by mom or even grandmother. And I was there. I was basically crying at the end of the show. It was so good.
Okay.
The second time I saw him wasn't as good, and I could tell how 2.5 years in between seeing him, how much he slowed down.
Really?
And
okay.
it was but he still sounded great, but it just wasn't the same.
Okay.
I just wish we could put a mic in front of Sam's face. She's saying no. The comments she's making.
That again, there's some 70s type stuff I like myself that so again, I can't be throwing stones at anybody for that one. And the guy has a very prolific track record.
Absolutely.
He's done a lot. He's got a deep
when we go
catalog.
home, the greatest hits are going on in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
The ride home, Manilow deep cuts.
But I sent you away, oh Mandy.
Well, if you think the laughter on that one there is something, boy, it'll really be coming up on one of these ones here subsequently. But first, we'll get the one here. Matt casting one for, again, one of the biggest selling artists of all time, somebody who really broke through big in '91, Garth Brooks. So, if you go by the wisdom of the masses, Garth Brooks is somebody who would probably be drawing a lot of votes.
Well, that's where I want on. I want on the fact that he did make as many albums as he did. He did have how many number one hits. He did go through, when he toured, he'd sell out 4 nights in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one that I've seen. And that's why I didn't vote for some of the others, is because I haven't seen him.
Okay.
I took this for his stage presence was just terrific.
Okay.
I mean, he worked the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
He got the crowd singing. I mean, at one point in the show, he stopped singing and the crowd just kept going, and he just stood there. And
That does happen at other concerts.
Yes, but
Just saying.
to demand, and you can understand. I mean, most of the time when you have it at other concerts,
Okay.
it's screaming and nobody's in tune, or nobody's in sync with the actual song.
Okay.
Where it sounded like one voice.
Okay.
Everybody in the crowd was one voice, and you just stood there. You know, to be that, to see that, I think that says something.
So you're saying it's like seeing Hacksaw Jim Duggan lead an arena of USA, USA, and he stops doing USA, and the crowd is doing it in unison. Okay.
But his performance and the way he worked the crowd, he got the crowd involved. He just had a good time on stage.
Okay. He has, quite a presence that has always been said about him. We go to a very interesting vote here at the table.
Let me have it. I can take it.
6 a.m. The vote for Anthony Petrone for the project that Nikki Sixx is involved with. And I understand that Anthony's second choice in this category was Paul McCartney and the Wings. And I asked him about that, and he said that's his side band. And he said, no, the Beatles were his side band. The Beatles were the side band. It was Paul McCartney and the Wings. That's the logic you're using here, yes? The 6 a.m. because you couldn't vote for the greatest musical act of all time if it was a side act. So clearly you consider Motley Crue the side act, yes?
Well, here's where you come with that. The word side act, well, Motley Crue's done.
Mm-hmm.
So this is his act. Motley Crue will never tour again.
I'm going to break the fourth wall. We're recording this on January 9th. They played their last show on December 31st. Okay. So they've been dead for 9 days, if you want to call them that.
All right.
And not like anybody's ever come back after saying that was the end.
All right. Well,
it's like pro wrestling with retirements, Anthony.
Then let's kick it totally to the side. Then.
Okay.
Let's kick the fact that I just said that totally aside.
Okay.
If you look at it, basically what it becomes is a supergroup. Okay. Simply because you got Nikki Sixx, who was in Motley Crue.
All right.
The biggest, most name in the band.
Okay.
You've got DJ Ashba, who spent many years with Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Who has spent many years in other bands, building his name. One of the best guitarists out there, and I've been told that by guitarists who actually play that they consider him one of the best guitarists out there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got James Michael, who's one of the greatest producers ever. Who has produced, if you look at the list of what he's produced music-wise, it would shock the heck out of you. Not to mention the fact that his voice has been on some of the greatest albums ever. Just using his voice in, background music. And there's a song that came out with Hailstorm that he actually sang in. So you take.
So there's some really good backing vocals and session musicians that make it a supergroup. Gotcha.
Well, who said? I didn't say anything about a session music. DJ Ashba was in Guns N' Roses. He was a full member of Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
But that wasn't the classic Guns N' Roses.
No, it wasn't. However,
was this the Axl's Lackeys version of Guns N' Roses?
This is when Axl started looking like Charlie Daniels.
It's not a even all that. It's where you take all three musicians, and you put them together, and it's what they create when it's all said and done. What they create is a fantastic sound that crosses all barriers of music, that crosses everything. You think Nikki Sixx, you automatically think hair metal. First thing that comes to everybody's mind.
It's not a hair metal group, though. I know that.
But these guys, their last album that came out was called Modern Vintage.
Mm-hmm.
There's country music on there.
Mm-hmm.
There's rock music on there. They even rap in points. So it takes all genres of music, brings it all together, and gives you one band.
Weren't they, when they started, they were just doing for a movie?
No, they were the way it started was they were doing a CD for Nikki's book, The Heroin Diaries.
Okay.
They never wanted to be a band. That was not the goal of this. The goal of this was to put out a CD to coincide with the book. They were pushed by the record producers to come up with a name and put out another album that was that good.
Well, and that's the thing. Look, I like their music, but if you're getting into the whole thing of like they're a supergroup or whatever, I mean, I also like Damn Yankees, but you don't see me voting for them for the best musical act of all time.
I'm more partial to the Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah, Traveling Wilburys. I like them a lot myself.
Or Asia.
It all comes down to the quality of the music.
Okay.
Damn Yankees was good though too.
They were really good. They were really good. Although, as we saw, I think you cobbled together some of those ones in your fantasy super group when we did our draft there, and that didn't reflect very well, I don't think, on the judges' scorecards. So
yeah, I thought we weren't going to mention that band draft anymore today.
Well, you kind of led me there.
Paul Belfie's not here, so it doesn't matter.
Last place.
I'm just really surprised Matt didn't pick Chuck Berry.
Yeah. Speaking of which, too, one of the funny, if you're going to get into black musicians, one of the greatest things about that whole thing was Jason putting together, getting like a shred metal guitarist and getting like Bootsy Collins with this group. You know,
I remember
Jason's whole. Do you remember how just disparate that thing was? It was
there was
Jason. The ideas for these guys to play together, is it not?
Yeah, it was like one. Yeah, we had Bootsy Collins, and then I think Sam who ended up winning. Had the weirdest one. It was like she had two bassists. It was like she had Flea and
I can
Les
tell
Claypool.
She brought in a violinist.
You have it
the
still put up here.
front page of the FDHLounge.com.
Yeah, but that's not
That
what
was
we're
in
all about, right?
2008, by the way.
Yeah, she went with Flea, Neil Peart, Tom Morello, Mike Shinoda, Steven Tyler, Lucia Micarelli. That was her wild card, and she won with that.
What was Anthony's?
Anthony's was Tom Schultz, Jack Blades, Peter Frampton, Roger Taylor, Joe Walsh, Steve Perry.
See, and I went with people that everybody in the group can sing.
And they fit together.
By the way, guys, cue the sad trombone sound. I need a new front man for my group. Scott Weiland was my front man, so that's.
You're probably better off, I think.
Well,
what was mine?
Yours was Chris Cornell, Jerry Cantrell, Taylor Hawkins, Robert DeLeo, Kevin Martin, Joey Santiago.
From the Pixies, yeah.
Jason's one.
That's a damn good group.
Zach Wilde, Bootsy Collins, Herman Lee, Chester Bennington, Jody Jordanson, Scruffy Wallace.
What on God's green earth?
I know. It just got funnier and funnier every time he picked. I was like,
and
wow.
mine lost.
All right, did we read Matt's?
I can't wait to hear the shred metal version of Groove is in the Heart. You know?
And mine lost.
Michael Anthony, Brian May, Joe Perry, Michael Cardilleone, Dennis DeYoung, Joe Elliott. That's a solid group. That's fine. Mine, Scott Weiland, R.I.P., Geddy Lee, Steve Smith, Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Donald Fagan. A true workmanlike group, if I do say so myself. I mean, all guys that are just amazing professionals, if I do say so myself. That's how it finished in second.
It's the glory days of WMMS right there.
Let me ask one last question, and then
we got to get
back to the
we got to
topic.
get to the winners here.
The one last question: wasn't there a rumor of a dead band draft? They all have to be deceased.
We never got around to that. That thing happened 7 years ago, and we still haven't done the dead band draft.
Yeah, we need to do the dead band draft.
Although, do I automatically have the first pick? Can I transfer Scott Weiland over from my live team?
It just crosses over through the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. That is. Now that I don't think we've ever sidetracked ourselves so thoroughly on something like that. But hey, it was worth doing, man. It's worth reliving. We go to the ones here that have more than one vote, a vote and a half. John Adams, who was here for some of the earlier sessions, not here right now, he cast a half a vote for U2, half a vote for Queen. More about Queen in a second here, but U2 gets their 1.5 votes, half from Johnny, half from Ron Adams. 2 votes for the Beatles. Those votes were cast by, as I look here, Tim Faust and Kyle Ross. Queen is your winner with 2.5 votes. You talk about squeaking by here. Jason and Samantha Jones voting for Queen, along with Johnny's half vote for Queen. So Chris Galloway, who on his way out kind of denounced that, did agree with me. I'm like, look, it's better than Bon Jovi. I mean, we can hold our head a little higher than we could before. I mean, maybe not a lot, but Queen's legit.
I do think that Queen was one of the greatest bands ever. They did have arguably the greatest voice in the history of music, Freddie Mercury, R.I.P.
Helped define the arena rock spectacle, basically.
They did have the blaring guitar that fit perfectly with that voice.
Brian May.
Yeah.
And then you got the rhythmic vocal backings of Roger Taylor fit perfectly. So, that band, it's all in how they fit. You don't have to be the greatest musicians to have the greatest band.
I should ask Johnny about this when he was here. Are we also giving credit to the Paul Rogers era? I'm a big Paul Rogers guy. I mean, that's.
I like him. I'm
not gonna, I was going to say,
what about the Adam Lambert era?
He's not a good fit.
Adam Lambert. Oh, you remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
I was looking at somebody had a draft. Somebody had a lead singer draft, and Dave Grohl beat Freddie Mercury in a vocalist draft.
That
and it's
would
like,
kill me.
Come on. I like Dave Grohl. I like Foo Fighters. I like Nirvana. But come on,
Yeah.
Freddie
Grohl's got a good
Mercury.
voice, but seriously.
Yeah.
The range on that voice, and that's one that the only reason I didn't vote for Queen as I can't, other than seeing it on video.
Yeah.
It's different being there. And
Well,
that's one reason why I lean towards Garth is because I've seen him live.
we like to bring everything full circle. You talk about the range on that voice. I agree with you. I would say he's the Phil Hartman of vocalists.
Well, there you go. That's called a callback in the business, ladies and germs.
Try the veal.
Yeah. Everything ties together. But as I say, through the course of this marathon taping earlier on here, Chris Galloway, an original FDH Lounge dignitary, going back to our first show back in 2007, but also John Adams, who, like I said, has had an attachment to FDH even longer than that. They were there for this. Regret that Bob Glassman had to be a last-minute scratch due to a change in business plans for him today. But I want to thank those guys and thank the ones still standing here, the Patron boys, Matt and Anthony. Good to have them in for this. They've been very faithful about making these ones through a period of time and helping to crown these winners. Always very much appreciated. And my good friend Tony Mazur, how good to see him again and have him in as a part of this thing. And again, everything just rocked the way that I knew it would. Good stuff to work off of and good takes from everybody. So I can't thank you guys enough. And Tony, look forward to seeing some more good stuff on stage from you, my man, as you continue to go along here. And
no
good
promises.
Stuff with the morning show. Yeah.
There's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, tune in. We're going to sing Moms Mabley's version of Abraham, Martin, and John. Abraham.
Yeah.
Well, the best thing I can say
That'll
is
reach the demographic of the audience.
Yeah, everyone remembers the Merv Griffin show.
it's worth showing up to sit next to his grandparents when he does certain bits. Those are the best times.
Yeah. That was funny. I really... Yeah, I just couldn't like help but sneak a look if you're like, is that going to elicit any? Like, no, it didn't. Like, you talk about troopers, man.
That was my bit
down.
about cooking placentas.
And I'm just giving the old glance, like,
I'm bringing that bit back at some point.
Yeah,
I'm bringing it back at some point. I'm going to retool it, and
it's a very long point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know, women, I'm sure, are themselves discovering new uses for the placentas, the cooking and seasoning
them.
And whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
Different seasoning, put a béarnaise on it.
Yeah.
See, he's laughing.
Little bit of cinnamon.
That's all I need is one laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Little bit of seasoning. You'll bring that placenta bit back. You'll do some more. You'll repurpose it. Do some new things with it.
Absolutely. When I don't want to be on television.
Yeah. Exactly. What a great way here of bringing it all full circle and saying thanks to one and all for participating in Pantheon 9.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel, Steno Notebooks, Manwich, Papermate Office Supplies, waitresses, strippers, bartenders, garbage men, janitors, microwave popcorn, the writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and The Periodic Table of Elements.